Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Erin Wells, and I'm from Mountain Ears Hearing Clinic. I am an audiologist and owner of Mountain Ears Hearing Clinic. And as an audiologist, my job is to make sure everyone is able to hear well, communicate well, and I work with pediatrics through adults and do hearing evaluations. But I also fit hearing aids, assistive devices, and I also program and fit cochlear implants. So communication is a big area in my field. And today I just wanted to talk a little bit about hearing loss and the current COVID-19 pandemic. There's been a lot of discussion in my clinic with my patients about all the difficulties that people are having that sometimes people are not particularly thinking about. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was hearing loss and the psychological and physical limitations that puts on individuals. So when you have hearing loss, first of all, if you're not amplified, you physically strain to hear individuals in basic conversations. So whenever you are in a group conversation, if you are still in classes or if you're in meetings at work, you are physically straining to concentrate and look at people and deal with all the background noise and different issues to be able to hear someone. So by the end of the day, you are typically more physically tired and mentally tired than someone with normal hearing. There's also the psychological limitations. Some of those psychological side effects of hearing loss are shame, guilt, anger, embarrassment, problems concentrating, sadness or depression, worry and frustration, anxiety, insecurity, self-criticism, and low self-esteem. So when you have hearing loss, there's lots of different things that go factor into that. A lot of people want to isolate themselves because they feel like when they go into conversations or into groups, they misunderstand what's being said. A lot of times when you have hearing loss, you hear people, but you just don't understand what they're saying. So you get embarrassed, you begin to want to isolate yourself from those social situations because it's a lot of hard work and you feel like you're constantly asking people to repeat themselves. It becomes a little more embarrassing or tasking. There's a lot of anger or shame because you think, why am I dealing with this, or what do people think of me? There's a lot of psychological issues that go on with hearing loss that you don't always think about, you don't always know that's going on. So with the current pandemic, what we have found is when people are told that they have to physically isolate from people, that just kind of adds an extra layer to the psychological issues when someone has hearing loss. So a lot of people with normal hearing are having some psychological issues because of being in isolation. Their norm is, their routine is just completely impacted. But whenever you already have some of those issues because you have hearing loss, it just makes it a little more prevalent. So the aspect of social distancing versus physical distancing, they're really trying to make sure people understand that you don't want to social distance because that means you're not conversing with people, you're not trying to stay active. Physical distancing is more accurate. So They try to tell you to stay safe and further away from people. I know that I've had patients who said they're trying to do their part, they're trying to stay at home, but it really impacted them psychologically because, for instance, one patient said she had lost her husband a couple years ago. So it wasn't too recent, but this was the first time that she had to sit at home and be really alone. And it's the first time she's really felt alone. So she's kind of going through that grieving process all over again. So a lot of those things people haven't really thought about. So you have the social isolation and the loneliness that creeps in because of that. You have increased reliance on remote communication. I know a lot of doctors' offices are doing telehealth. Some meetings are doing, like we are right now, Zoom meetings, but the sound quality isn't the greatest as being face-to-face with someone. So you have some distortion when you have hearing problems, and it's just not as clear. You might feel like if you're in one of these meetings or talks where they are able to talk to the doctor or talk to a group of people, that if you misunderstand someone, you might feel like you're being disruptive or you're interrupting, and therefore you just don't do so and you misunderstand what's being said. So that can be dangerous when it comes to your health or just any general communication that you're having. There's concerns of seclusion, so we don't want people to feel secluded and feel like they can't get out and be social once again. Other concerns for people is that their hearing aids are malfunctioning. So when they're doing well at home with their hearing aids, that's fine, but sometimes you can have some malfunction of the hearing aids and people are not sure what they should do in that instance. Or I have some people who, now that they have been through this pandemic, they're actually noticing they have a hearing problem and they want to know what to do about that. You have a lot of stress and anxiety over just the whole new norm. We've never gone through something like this in our lifetime, so there's a lot of unknowns. We've never had to have the government tell us to stay at home, to be safe. We're not really sure about this virus, so there's put a lot of stress and anxiety on people. And whenever you have tinnitus, which is that noise in your ears, like ringing, buzzing, humming, that's a common trigger for tinnitus. So you can have an increase of that ringing or noise in your ears because of everything that's going on. But this is just a lot of uncertainty in the times, and it's put a lot of stress on people. People are afraid to go out. I know things are opening back up. There's less restrictions. They are still telling people with underlying health issues and of a certain age to try to stay at home as much as possible. But a lot of people are uncertain of what's the best route, what's the best thing that they can do. So some things I wanted to talk about are some things to help during this time. I know people are starting to get out now, but if you're still uncertain and you still want to stay at home, I know the O'Neill Center has been doing blizzard bags, and those are great things to be able to keep active. I know there's different talks like the one I'm doing now that you can feel like you're being a part of the community and learning different things, and it keeps you active. There's different videos and classes that they have on Facebook, on YouTube, that kind of gets you into having some sort of activity to do. I know there's a lot of Zoom meetings going on, so if you're technologically savvy, you can do things like that. I know there's a lot of church groups that are meeting over Zoom because they feel like the studies are best whenever they're able to do the Zoom at this moment and not meeting in person. I know I have family members that have tried to stay active by doing those types of things. They say it kind of breaks up the monotony in the day, doing some of those classes and joining in some of the groups, and you can do some talking and talk to family on the phone. If you have FaceTime, if you have any type of video, being able to talk to people. I have some people who say, well, if I don't talk to them all the time, I don't really know what to talk about. Well, there's plenty of things you could try to talk about, even little things that you've done during the day, but just try to keep socially active. If you have a hard time on the phone, that is something that happens when you have hearing loss. There's caption call phones. That's something you can contact my office. They come to your home and set that up for you, and it would write out what's being said. So that's a helpful thing. And they've done a lot of research recently that says you need to go outside, go to a park, pick up a hobby, do gardening, do something outside, because even being outside for 20 minutes of the day it keeps you psychologically fit and helps you mentally. But any new hobbies that you can pick up, reading new books, sewing. I know my mom is making doll clothes for my daughter, making masks for people. There's lots of things that you can do. You can walk on the trails, walk downtown. You can see people. They try to be physically distant, but it just makes you feel more like a part of the community, and makes you feel like you have a little bit more of your normalcy. Hearing aids, like I said, sometimes people are having hearing aid problems. I know, for instance, my clinic has stayed open this whole time. I felt that hearing is essential, and I've had people who have had hearing aids stop working. They've wanted to get new hearing aids. They had issues with that, and they've been able to come into the clinic. There are certain things that you can request if you're still not comfortable. If you want to call the clinic and have someone come out to the car, curbside type of issue, that's possible. I know in my clinic, and as well as others, there's lots of sanitation going on. Masks are being worn, trying to make people feel as comfortable as possible. In my clinic, I'm spacing people out so that there's not people sitting in a waiting room and you don't feel like you have to pass people or be crowded by people, since, like I said, it's still uncertain times. Some people are trying to stock up on supplies like batteries and brushes and filters and things like that for their hearing aids, so they don't have to go out as often and they have enough. And some people are wanting to have extra devices, whether it's assistive devices or extra hearing aids. If their hearing aids are getting older, they just have a backup set. So those are just some suggestions of some people if they have enough hearing loss that it's an extreme concern. Now, there are some issues with the new normal that we have. So what we're doing as a community and as a nation, and actually worldwide, is everyone's being asked to wear masks when they go out. Stores are asked to have plexiglass partitions to shield them from any type of coughing or sneezing or different things like that. We're also asking people to be physically distant. We want 6 feet apart from others. And although that helps with the health of individuals, that is not helping with the hearing and the understanding whenever people go out. So like I said, when you have hearing loss, the issue is that you can hear people, but you don't understand what they're saying. When you wear a mask, that covers up someone's mouth, And when you have hearing loss, you look at people's mouths. You get a lot of information from someone's lips. A lot of hearing loss is in the high frequencies, which takes away consonant sounds, and that's the beginning and ending of words. Consonant sounds are something that we see on people's lips, and so whenever they're talking, you look at their lips and you can get better understanding. You can't do that when people are wearing masks. So having people speak up, because that's actually muffling their voice, and actually slow down and try to pronounce their words, that's going to help a little bit. But then you have the plexiglass. So I have normal hearing, and I've been to stores where the salesperson is wearing a mask, there's the plexiglass, and they're talking to me and I have no idea what they're saying. Imagine that whenever you have hearing loss, it just makes it worse. And then you have the added stress of knowing that you're going out and you have to run errands and you're going to doctor's appointments, and you know you're not going to be able to understand people. So those are some issues that we're having, as well as the physical distancing. The further you are away from someone, the softer the sound's going to be by the time it gets to your ears. So when you have hearing loss, it's just is compounded by the different requirements that we have right now. So what are some things that you can do to help? There's telehealth options, like I said, for your doctor's office. The doctor wouldn't be wearing a mask during the telehealth, and you can tell them to slow down and speak distinctly and get a little better information that way. Some articles that I've been reading are recommending communication kits. I don't know. I think that's probably for more people with severe types of losses, but being prepared when you go out to appointments or going out to stores where you can have something that says, I'm hard of hearing, please speak up, please slow down, something that you can show people. They have apps on smartphones if you're technologically savvy. I downloaded a couple just to kind of play around with them. There's one that's called, I believe, let me look here, Otter. And I have an iPhone. It's for iPhone and Androids. And when you open the app, you can actually kind of hand it to someone or push it their way, and it transcribes everything they're saying so that you can look down and read it. So if you're having a lot of difficulties understanding people, that kind of picks up their voice and transcribes it so you can then read it and feel like you understand them better. There's another one called Cardzilla, and you can actually just kind of create little writings. Like I said, I'm hard of hearing, please speak up, something that you can show someone. I have played around with that, and you can kind of save those and have them when you go out somewhere. But the other issue that I've found is that people are really noticing that they have a hearing problem because of these new guidelines that we have as well. So I have a friend who owns a food shop, and he has customers wearing masks, and he's behind the plexiglass, and he's noticed that he can't understand what people are saying. So he came in to get his hearing tested, and he definitely has some hearing loss. So it's not just for people, problems for people who already know they have a hearing loss, but it's become a problem where people are noticing their hearing loss because of the restrictions and guidelines that we have. Like I said, there's an increased stress level of people going out, so they're just telling you to be prepared. So you want to make sure that you're not completely avoiding going to the store or doing things that you need, but just be prepared. Like I said, you can have a communication kit if you'd like, or just mentally know that you're going to need to tell people, I'm having problems understanding you. Can you speak up, slow down? You can use some of those apps to help you whenever you go places. Um, the other thing is if you have hearing aids, they do have accessories like microphones where it can pick up a person's voice and go straight to your hearing aids. So there's even a native app on iPhones for the hearing aids that connect to your iPhones that you can turn your phone into a microphone. So there's different options to try to get better communication, but just be prepared and know that when you go out somewhere, it's going to be a little different than you're used to. And yes, you usually have problems hearing, but you're going to have to be an advocate for yourself. So people are usually willing to help. I find that people are trying to be as helpful as possible, especially in these times. So just be an advocate and say, these are my problems. Can you just help me in that way? The other issue that I'm finding is that people are having problems wearing masks with hearing aids. So the most popular style of hearing aid are the small behind the ears that sit right on top of your ears. So whenever you wear a mask, then it flips the hearing aids off, or when you take the mask off, it's flipping the hearing aids off. So I know that I've had some patients using some plastic strips that have little indentations in it so they can put their mask behind their head. They've done where you put a strip of fabric with a couple buttons and you put that behind your head and loop the mask onto those. That way it's not on your ears. When you have people with glasses, plus the hearing aids, plus the mask, it becomes a problem. And I've had the people's hearing aids flip off and they've had to go back and find them. So they're just recommending that if you do wear a mask and loop it over your ears, you just make sure your hearing aids are there when you're putting it on and taking it off. Just check them and make sure they're there. You can also get masks that tie behind your head instead of loop over your ears. There's different options like that as well. Sorry, this is the first time I've given this talk, so I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Like I said, there's just been a lot of issues with my patients and just coming up with the different stresses that they're having. Like I said, physically, socially, psychologically, there's lots of different things that are going on because of the current pandemic. But I think the consensus that I'm getting is you need to be social, so don't let that scare you. Do different things that help you do that. Like I said, the O'Neill Center is doing plenty of activities, trying to keep people active, rely on your family and friends to talk to, get outside. But whenever you do go out socially or to go to the store, be prepared and understand that you're going to have some barriers. But there's ways to work around them, whether using your technology on your smartphones or just telling people. You can even use a pen and pencil and say, here, write it down. I didn't understand you. You don't want to run the risk of not understanding someone and agreeing to something you didn't know, or especially at a doctor's appointment. So people are willing to work with you. There's an added stress when you go out. So just try to conserve as much energy and just do the best you can. And know that the hearing clinics are here to be able to help you with your hearing aid needs and with your evaluations if you need so, adjustments. So if there's anything that I personally could do, you can always contact my clinic. My phone number is 304-917-3742. And I have a Facebook page as well. It's Mountain Ears Hearing Clinic, and I'm in Parkersburg, West Virginia. But I believe that's everything that I had to talk about today. Is there any questions that you had?
Yes, I have one. What is because I know you talked about the communication kits. What are in the communication kits?
They're just recommending that maybe people have index cards having different sayings on it that they might use a lot of times, like I have hearing problems, or please speak up and slow down. Common phrases that people might use, like, um, can you please, or masks are difficult for me to understand. Could you please speak up? Just different little things that people find that they're saying a lot. And maybe just a pen and pencil if they need that, have the apps ready on their phone, just something to be prepared that when they go out, they're not flustered and they're ready to try to communicate the best they can.
Oh, okay, good. And I know you said like the wearing the masks. So is there anything else that they could do? Like when people are wearing masks, is the only thing that they can do is pretty much just tell them to speak up, or is that really
Yeah, it's difficult because, like I said, you can't see someone when you have a mask. They have some masks that have a clear piece where you can see someone's mouth. I think they're becoming a little more, they say they're becoming more available for people, but it kind of muffles the sound. So I found in my clinic, if I speak up and I slow down, it helps people understand what I'm saying. But when you have a severe enough hearing loss, that can still be a problem. So using like the hearing aid accessory that's the microphone, or using your phone app that transcribes what's being said, that can also be helpful. And sometimes for me, I have to just kind of distance myself and take off my mask and just speak up and look at someone so that they understand me. But I know in the stores and such, they have requirements where they can't do that. But do the best, just trying to do the best you can at trying to get people to understand that looking at someone is a big factor in understanding. So just try to speak up and slow down, and that's kind of the best you can do at this point.
right?
Yeah.
Well, we do appreciate you coming out. That's all the questions that I have, and you definitely gave some really great resources to use for when they are out and about. And like the communication kits, that's a really good idea. So I never would have thought of that, and some of them might not have thought of that when going out in the store. So that's really great to think about. So absolutely, and we appreciate you coming out and speaking with us.
Okay.
Thank you.